talking about a priority that you've heard a lot about, and that's the men's prison. You're probably tired of hearing about that, and quite frankly, I'm a little tired about talking about it. But we keep focusing on this project because of how important it is to South Dakota. Everything that I do is about keeping South Dakota strong, safe, and free. And a new prison is the most important thing we can do to enhance public safety in South Dakota. That includes safety for the staff working at the state penitentiary. It includes safety for the inmates who are incarcerated there. But most importantly, it includes the safety of the people of this great state. Let me explain what I mean by that. Last week, Senate Bill 192, I believe it was, passed unanimously through the South Dakota Senate. That bill is pretty simple in its content. It renames the Department of Corrections to the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitations. Legislators from both parties want to emphasize that the role of the DOC is to focus on rehabilitating people. The fact is, almost every man or woman who goes into the state prison system will one day be back in our communities. So when they come out, we want them to be rehabilitated. We want them to be better citizens, better husbands and wives, better fathers and mothers, better family members or friends, better able to earn a living, better able to take care of themselves and their own physical, mental, and emotional health. We want them to be better. We need to rehabilitate them. If we want to rename DOC the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, then we need to back those words with actions. We need to put our money where our mouth is. The unfortunate truth is rehabilitation is not possible in the current state penitentiary. The facility is Gothic, it's old, and it's decrepit. It was never designed for classrooms or mental health or addiction counseling. It was built to incarcerate, not to rehabilitate. A new modern prison will change that. We'll be better able to take care of people and help them re-enter society successfully. And they will have the opportunity to achieve success for themselves, their families, and their communities. This will make South Dakota's communities safer. Successful rehabilitation will lead to less crime. Less crime will lead to safer communities. And safer communities will lead to a stronger South Dakota. Our legislature is taking a deeper look at the new prison this week. Delaying this project to do a summer study would cost the South Dakota taxpayers up to $40 million of inflation. That doesn't seem like a very fiscally conservative approach, and I hope that the project continues to move forward with favorable votes. Next, again, I wanted to talk about the legislature and thank the legislature for their partnership on the property tax reform bill. We've received a few comments and made some edits. Specifically, we want to ensure that the taxing districts can capture growth as value is added. So some of that language has to be clarified. And we provided a grandfather clause for folks who are already currently enrolled in the property tax assessment freeze program. I'm looking forward to the Senate State Affairs Committee hearing tomorrow afternoon. During that hearing, Senate Bill 216 will be voted on, and I look forward to this bill moving through the process. Like I said, we're here on a different day and time than usual. The reason for that is because I'll be heading to the National Governors Association meeting in Washington, D.C. first thing tomorrow. While I'm there, we'll have several meetings with the Trump administration officials and other governors about key priorities for South Dakota. I'll see Secretary of Interior Doug Burgum, who I just had a phone call with last Friday to confirm fireworks on Mount Rushmore in 2026. And I'll see USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins, and I hope to be talking to her about agriculture of course, South Dakota's #1 industry. And I look forward to meeting with fellow governors and shared priorities. With that, I will turn it over to you for questions.
On the prison, and I know that the cost is one of the issues that legislators are talking about. I'm wondering, because these documents are asking for a 1,500 bed level 5 facility, maximum security facility, essentially the most expensive one, did the state consider perhaps a lower level of security or a mix of facilities? I know that this is one of the questions that's come up. I mean, what consideration was perhaps given to other configurations?
Well, I'll have Ryan Bruner come up and he can, he's been on the front lines of this since the beginning. And so I'll let him respond to that.
Thank you, Governor. I believe I said this in committee the other day, right? A level 5 facility is like having a 5-speed pickup, a manual transmission. It means you have all 5 levels. It does not mean all of the cells are level 5. And so you have different levels of security. At the end of the day, the new prison is 1,500 beds, which means it's 750 cells. We're building modern cells. A cell is concrete walls, concrete floor, and a steel door. And so to say that those are all maximum security is not the representation of how prisons are built, right? A modern cell is concrete wall, concrete floor, steel door, 2 people per cell. And so that's the facility that's been designed. How those inmates are classified or what privileges they have, or that determines their other security classifications. But we can't use sheetrock and wood studs where they'd be able to punch their way out, right? We need concrete walls, and in order to do that, the guaranteed maximum price is $825 million.
Governor, have you been talking, Bob Mercer with Land News, have you been talking to legislators individually, whether it's the leadership or personally, about the prison and the need to vote for it?
Yes, I have. In fact, I just had another meeting just a couple, less than an hour ago. And so, yeah, I've as opportunities presented itself, I've had individual conversations.
Lee Strubinger, SCPB. I think one of the aspects that gives a lot of lawmakers heartburn is the kind of discrepancy in cost between what they're building in Nebraska and what we've sort of got here. I was wondering if you could maybe clarify why there's such a price point difference.
Yeah, I could, but I'll let you hear from the horse's mouth, who's from Ryan again.
So the Nebraska facility is hard bidding their facility. And so it's been, Stacy Waters, our state engineer, shared in State Affairs earlier this week that Nebraska is still finalizing their design and packages to go out for bid, and then they'll go out for bid in May. And so we went with a guaranteed maximum price route. And so what will happen then is our construction manager at risk gives us the guaranteed maximum price, and then they bid out each of the subcomponents, and they're required to do that by the contract. So the prison can actually come in for less if the bids come in favorably. And so there are lots of comparisons you can make. North Dakota is building a 260 bed prison for $161 million, which is $620,000 per bed. And so I believe Maryland, our state engineer testified, was even higher than that on a cost per bed basis. And so we feel with what we need to build, which is medium level, mostly medium level cells, but again, concrete cells with a steel door, we're in line on a cost per square foot or cost per bed basis with where prisons are that are currently in the same phase as us and where they're going to be going forward. You know, a lot of that cost estimate came from that DLR study that we had done back in the fall of 2021, published in January of 2022. DLR came to the legislative summer study I believe it was July 26th of 2022, and talked about how their cost estimates needed to be revisited because they had used sort of your earlier long-term costs for what prisons used to be, and with the cost escalation post-COVID, it's a different construction market. And so they came and told the legislative summer study that, and we have that audio available if you'd like it. been playing it for legislators. And so they came and shared that. We did have the cost revisited. We wish the costs didn't continue to escalate, but that's the construction environment we're in and the facility that we need to provide for the safety of the staff, the safety of the inmates, and the general public.
I just want to put a finer point on one thing. That Nebraska number is a 4-year-old estimate. I have to say, the last 3-4 years, if you've been paying attention to every construction project we've had in South Dakota, they all came through appropriations. We didn't have one construction estimate in the last 4 years that was right. They all came in over. We had to appropriate more money to all of them, and construction inflation was crazy the last 4 years. So we're using a 4-year-old Nebraska number that is for sure gonna be way lower than what they actually pay. They're doing the hard bid process where they go out for bids and see what they get. We're taking the maximum, guaranteed maximum, to protect ourselves from that. If the bids come in high, that's the contractor's problem. If they come in low, it's good for us.
Just had one quick kind of follow-up. I thought I heard in the committee that there was only one construction outfit that actually bid on that. What does that kind of do to maybe that price if there's only one entity that kind of bid on that?
So what you're talking about there is the RFP for the construction manager at risk. And so they just manage the project, right? They go out, they interview the trade partners, they give us that guaranteed maximum price. And so that's Henry Carlson out of Sioux Falls and J.E. Dunn, who builds prisons nationally. They then bid out each of those subcomponents. And so there will be significant competitive bidding. They break it up into small enough packages that South Dakota contractors will have opportunities to bid on it. And so there's a significant amount of bidding. That part comes now after we get final approval. And so they've looked at the construction market, talked to trade partners, said this is the guaranteed maximum price, similar to how we did the women's prison in Rapid City, and then all of those subcomponents are bid out. And so that's the difference is we're talking about a request for proposals and interview process versus the actual construction cost, which will be bid out.
I just have one more follow-up here. I just want to ask this point blank. Are you saying that if the request for information had been for a level 3 or a level 4 medium security prison from the beginning, that it would still cost $125 million? I'm just trying to read between the lines.
$825 million.
Sorry, 820, yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to look at all the classification levels, but if you're building medium security beds, which is more of the language that I've talked in, right? If you're building medium security beds, they're concrete wall, concrete floor, and a steel door. And so you maybe wouldn't have the 5th level, but the 5th level is only a small part of the facility. Most of the housing units are designed to be medium. And if you read the DLR report, I think it was page 28, it talks about the need for low, medium, and high medium, right? That's the types of beds that we're constructing.
We're going to head to the phones for a few questions if anyone on the phones has a question.
Kara Hart with Brownfield Ag News has a question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Governor Rhoden, thanks for taking my question. The South Dakota Senate is expected to consider a bill that would make it illegal to manufacture, sell, or distribute lab-grown protein in the state, House Bill 1109. If it passes the Senate, do you plan to sign that bill or veto it? Why or why not?
Well, I've not read that bill yet, so I just wouldn't make comment right now about what I would sign or wouldn't sign. If it gets to my desk, I'll answer the question then.
And then just a quick follow-up. You mentioned that you'll be in Washington, D.C. in the next few days to meet with the Ag Secretary. I know she sent a letter to governors asking them to participate in the Laboratories of Innovation Initiative, in addition to sending a letter to state leaders asking for feedback to scale back on nutrition programs. Have you responded at all? Has South Dakota responded to her letter yet? What is the path forward on that for the state? Thank you.
We have not. We've not responded to any letters from the Secretary of Ag.
Governor Rhoden, this is Jody Heemster at DRG Media Group in Pierre.
Yes.
Thank you for taking my question. Just wondering about the impact of the federal cuts in South Dakota. Just wondering what you're hearing as far as numbers of federal employees that may now be looking for work. what kind of resources are available, and is there hope that we have some empty state jobs some of them could transition into? Just kind of the broad picture of what you're seeing for the Washington, D.C. direct impact here.
Sure. Well, a good question. Answer to the first question is we don't know as a state that it's not reported to us how many of those federal jobs have been vacated, or how many people, federal employees, have lost their jobs. As far as available jobs, I can't answer that. I think just in the state government we have something over 700 open jobs in state government. Broader than that, as a state, we have the luxury of, from this vantage point at least, the lowest unemployment rate in the nation and 19,000 available jobs total. So there are a lot of opportunities in South Dakota for these federal employees that are laid off.
Quick follow-up to that. And also, I can hear somebody typing, so somebody needs to mute their phone line. Governor Rhoden, have you heard of any of the programs the state works with? I'm thinking like Medicaid, SNAP, WIC, those kind of things. Are our state employees able to do their jobs? Are they getting the information they need from the federal level in order to carry out the missions of these programs?
They are, and I don't think we've had any interruptions or disruptions in our process running those programs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all those on the phones. We'll head back to the room now for a few more questions.
Bob Mercer with KELOLAND News. This morning, the House State Affairs Committee passed out a resolution that calls for a property tax study, or asked the Legislative Research or Executive Board to appoint a property tax committee to study it, and you'd be a member of that. Are you working with them on that, or what? Do you have any opinion on that?
I'm not working with them. This is the first I've heard about it, so.
Grant Green with Dakota Territory News and Dakota News Now. I mean, so obviously in that same committee meeting, there was the House appraisal 3% increase that got tabled. The sales tax increase, it was denied. There's so many of these property tax bills that are coming in, and I just wanted to hear about maybe, now that you've been talking about this for a couple of weeks, like in particular, what are some of the ones that you are for sure taking a supportive position on? So,
well, for starters, the bill, I talked about in the introductory remarks, be Senate Bill 216 and 214? 216. It'll be introduced in committee tomorrow morning. That is a governor's bill. I think that's the first governor bill that we've seen in a couple of years. And I would have introduced that bill myself. I'm going to be on the way to DC, and so Lieutenant Governor Van Huysen is going to introduce that bill on my behalf at the State Affairs Committee. So we're focused on that right now as far as property tax bills.
Just a follow-up on an unrelated topic. Yesterday, SB 180, the bill that would give parents more power over kids and their app use and what apps they're able to download. I just want to know how familiar you are with that bill and your thoughts on that as well.
I'm not sure. I've read some talking points on different bills, and I'm not sure that that's the right one, so I wouldn't comment as far as what's in 180.
We have time for 2 more questions.
John Holt, South Dakota Searchlight. Switching topics a little bit. A few days ago, we heard from the South Dakota Farm Bureau and I believe South Dakota Corn that they're looking at some kind of a compromise with eminent domain. They say 67% of pipeline of landowners sign on before eminent domain could be invoked. Are you aware of these conversations? Are you part of these conversations? Where are we sitting at with the eminent domain conversation at this point in the year?
I have not been part of those conversations. I have been abreast of some of those press releases from the various ag organizations on positions they're taking. And so we're monitoring those and keeping track of some of these bills through process.
Okay, thank you.
I obviously, there was a big announcement about fireworks next year at, Mount Rushmore, and, that's something, of course, many people are just curious about, and so wanted to know what details you could share about what's gonna happen and who might be there.
Yes, well, yeah, it was Friday when I was headed home. I got the call from Doug Burgum, and we talked about half hour, 40 minutes. So it was a good conversation, and we talked about other things as well. But July 2026, our 250-year celebration, is the year specifically we're talking about doing the fireworks. And we talked about the potential of getting President Trump there. Obviously, that is decisions yet to be made and finalized, and so there's right now we were assured that we would have the ability to have the fireworks display on 2026, and I'm optimistic that we'll get Trump to the game.
Thank you all for being here and for your questions. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. Thank you all.